Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. Learn from their experiences and navigate the highs and lows of the investing world. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited to have my friend Andy Rong with us. Andy is pretty amazing. He is a young entrepreneur. He is a co-founder of a marketing platform called AstroBlaster. He is a real estate investor. He's a wholesaler. He's done lots of things at his young age. And I'm super stoked to have you with us today, Andy. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you for the amazing introduction, Benson. I've been also using Privy for a while now, and we still do. We love Privy, and especially in the state of Florida, really good for being able to quickly identify opportunities for us.
Oh, thank you so much for the kind word. I appreciate that. And in your intro, I said that you were a young entrepreneur, and to put it in some context, you're 18 currently, right?
Yeah, I'm 18 right now. Yeah,
18 currently, which is pretty amazing. You've already done so many really cool things. And you started in the entrepreneurial world a long time ago. Your parents were entrepreneurs. They had a restaurant. You worked in the restaurant. What was it like growing up in a family where, and maybe it didn't feel like entrepreneurship, but growing up in a family where you had your own business and you had to be part of it. What was that like?
One, I was like paid pennies. It was just, at the time, I didn't understand like why they were making me do it. I thought they were just trying to get free labor out of me, but it was also a lesson of like hard work. I was getting up in the morning when most of the kids my age was playing games. I mean, I was still playing games. Don't get me wrong. I was still a kid. I was very much a kid up until like sophomore of high school. And I was still playing games back then. But the lesson I missed probably when I was working there was just the self-discipline part and learning how to talk to people was the lesson they were trying to teach me there. And that was how it was like. It was just work all the time. And one, it was also like stress management. When there was a bunch of orders and I was the only one not the only one in the kitchen, but like I was the one packing the orders. And also if sometimes there's too many orders, I'd have to also cook meals. So do all that. And then also pick up the phones when people are calling in, online orders, all this stuff. And then like a customer misses a play in their order or like all these things. And I was like 13. So I was like learning all these things about how people work and how the world really works. So that taught me a lot of valuable lessons I didn't fully comprehend at the time.
Yeah. Do you think that your parents intended it to be like life lessons that they were teaching you at a young age? Or was it just like part of the culture?
I think half part of the culture for sure. There's like a meme out there or like a short video where it's like this Asian kid with two phones on the side and he's like answering orders in the front and he's doing all these things. And it's like an Asian restaurant. And I think that's like, from what I've seen, like very normal almost. It's just to put your kid to work at a very young age.
Yeah.
Because that's how we do it. That's how we do it in the culture.
So where is your family from?
We're from a small town close to Hong Kong called Guangdong.
Very interesting. Do you still have family back there that you guys communicate with? Do you ever travel back?
I have very few family members now there. I visited 2 months ago. It was really nice. It was a lot different from what I remembered. But it's a very small town. Almost not. It's like you have to take like a private, like a family. You can only go there from a family car or like someone that you know there. You can like Uber there. You have to take a special route to get there. So it's not like most people are on motorcycles and it's
many entrepreneurs that come from minority backgrounds. It's part of what defines them. I'm a Mexican American, or I'm an African American, or I'm an Asian American. Is that part of what defines you and drives you?
What drives me like internally, I guess
maybe if it's not pronounced, like you don't say, oh, I'm this, but maybe you do. Like how has that influenced you to come from that background and being an Asian American? How do you think that's propelled you into your success at such a young age?
I don't think that factor. It was also like, good question. I don't know if it had a huge factor. But I did feel like a huge minority, ironic, but like I felt like I didn't feel like I was fitting in all the time because I wasn't part of that. Because where I was raised mainly was Houston, Texas, and I would go to schools that are predominantly white, and I'd feel like I'd not fit in. That's my own world I created inside my head, but I'd feel like I want to fit in. I want to be with the cool kids. So maybe that also drive me. I sold vapes in freshman of high school. I started selling vapes because the kids in my grade were doing vapes freshman year, and they're all doing vapes in the bathroom. And I'm like, I want to be friends with them. I didn't know at the time who was a good friend or a good influence on me, but I was like, I want to be part of something. I want to be part of something. So I bought vapes from China. It was like DHK, AliExpress, Alibaba, whatever. And it was like $1.50 each. It was like a gift wrap or not. It was like a discreet box. It was like 150 of them. I saved up a bunch of money. I was like 14, 15 at the time. And then I sold them for 10 a pop, and I delivered them on my bike for 15. I made good money from there. But yeah, I guess that's also what drove me, was trying to fit in art.
Yeah. So that's the great way to get in there, is like you basically you put yourself into a position where they had to communicate with you because there was demand for your product. And then you got to show off your personality, and then that probably opened the door for you to start hanging out with the people that you wanted to.
Yeah. And I still know a couple today. Most of them are like jackasses, but I know a couple of them today.
Right.
But if I'd never done it, I probably would have had a different friend group, and who knows what type of person I would have become today.
Yeah, like in our world of entrepreneurialism, oftentimes we say we want to be in the same rooms of these successful people. So you put yourself in situations to affect the outcome, right?
Yeah.
And you basically did that at a young age, where you put yourself in the room
yeah.
of these people that you wanted to be like.
Yeah.
And it rubbed off on you to an extent.
And the idea itself, yes, but probably the long term was probably not good, because I eventually got caught, and I thought it was like the worst day of my life. But it was the best thing.
You got caught what? Selling vapes? Is that bad? Is it illegal?
So I was selling vapes in the restroom. I was like doing this transaction in the bathroom. And then I was like, my backpack was in front of me. I had like 6 vape, like 12. I was actually had like 12 vapes on me. It was like this. And then he was like paying me by Apple Pay or whatever. So I was doing it. And then the principal comes in, and then 2 cops come in. I still to this day don't know if it was planned or if it was like just for them walking in. But they walked in and was like, come with me. And then I'm like, oh, shit, I can't lie my way out of this. Go to office, and 2 weeks of suspension. It was a lesson, but I'm glad it happened, because who knows? Like maybe I would have stepped up to something even more illegal, and then more illegal. And then, because in that world, the more illegal it is, the more demand there is.
Yep. And the more money.
So I'm like, okay, I'm glad I got caught and stopped in my tracks then, and not caught when I'm 5 years down the road selling something else.
It was a year down the road when you found real estate, right? So you started wholesaling, you found King Kong, right? Which you had some identification with, right? Because he's also Asian.
Yeah.
Is that what drew you to him originally, was the fact that he was an Asian entrepreneur?
Probably percentage, but mainly was his personality and his way. It's just, he delivered it in such a way where it was like, it is so easy to do this. No license, no money, freaking easy. And then I didn't buy, like, I don't think there was a course from him at the time. It was like a long time ago. It's 3 years ago. Yeah, this was 3 years ago. And I don't know if he had a course at the time, but he just made all these like YouTube videos. But a month later, I'm trying, get nowhere. And then I see Jameel's ad for astro flipping, and he's like the blue genie. He's like shaking his body on like the tabletop. And I'm like, okay, I got to sign up for this. Get on a call. It says, yeah, I didn't tell my age because I was afraid. I thought because I didn't know anything about the real business space. So I was like, okay, I'm going to act mature. And if they ask my age, I'm going to say I'm 19 or like 18. I was like 15. So he was like, it's 7,800 one time. And like, I didn't have money for that. I don't think any 15-year-old does. And so
the drug dealers do.
Yeah. So if I continued the drugs, maybe I do. So I was like, okay, do you have monthly payments? And yes, there was 6 months of I think it was like 1,600 a month. So I took that. I had, I think, 1,000 something in my bank. I paid my mom 1,000, and then my mom paid for that first month. And then from there, pretty much working in the restaurant every day to try to pay for it. Couldn't afford it after 4 months, did no deals. Not the course's fault, not Jameel's fault, none of that. It was my fault. One, because I didn't leverage community, and one, I didn't leverage the live calls that you get with Jameel, which is really beneficial. And it was my fault. And I didn't know at the time. I thought it was just like, oh, the market's sideways, but like the market's just not treating me right. And so I just blamed stuff. I was like, okay, the reason I'm not successful is because of something else, not. And so 4 months go by, and my grandpa has a vacant house that is like north of Houston. No one lives in it. It's a 3-2, 2-bed and 2-car garage. And when I was in real estate in the first 4 months, I looked at these properties, and I remember that hedge funds like looked for these type of properties, like 3-2, 2-car garage, 1978 plus at least, like very specific buy boxes. By the way, side note, if you have something that fits their buy box, is very easy to work with. They will very rarely have some wiggle room or pull any strings for you. They have a very specific buy box. So this property that my grandpa had specifically fit the buy box. I was like, Grandpa, do you want to sell your home? And he's like, sure, draw an offer. And then since I was just like, I just sent the address to like a couple flippers I used to know. Everyone offered like 130, 120. And my grandpa wanted like 172, 175, I think. So I couldn't do it. Yeah, flippers wouldn't work. So none of the flippers offered me a good enough number because there wasn't a flipper area. It was a rental area. There was no there was no HGTV flip in that area. It was a rental neighborhood. It was a cookie cutter neighborhood. No one does flips in those neighborhoods. Okay. And then I was like, okay, I actually know this one guy that has a connection to a hedge fund. His name was Dylan. I don't know if he's still in the business, but I sent it to Dylan and he was like, oh, this is perfect. I'm going to send it to my fund. And he says, I have an offer for 192. And then he walks it. And then he stays at 192. We actually get him up to 195, I think. And then we split 17 and a half. I don't know if my math checks out, but we split 17 and a half. What I found out was it was not only Dylan in the deal, it was two other wholesalers in between. I didn't even know. I didn't even know there was two other wholesalers. So I just split it 4 ways. I thought I was splitting 50-50, but I got $4,000. It was like, whatever. It's cool. And then so once I got that $4,000, I paid the rest off for Astro flipping because I had 4 months left. Paid the rest off for that and then got in.
That's awesome. So there's no better way to work your way into the business than leveraging existing relationships. And so like you leveraged Dylan and your grandfather, and you just made it work. And there's probably more lessons in that transaction that were way more valuable than that $4,000 that you made anyway, right? Like you learned a bunch of stuff, like how to pull a deal together, how to like hack situations, and just, you didn't give up. The average person probably, when they heard 170 something and you're $40,000 apart from what a flipper wants, would have been like, it's done. So you just kept pushing and you got the deal to work. So you were 15 when that was happening, right?
Yeah. So when it closed, I turned 16. When it closed, I turned 16. This was August 2021. No, 2022, I think. 2021 or 2020. I'm very mixed up with my dates. But 2 years ago, January 2022, was when I fully started back wholesaling and got back into it.
So back into it, but you're still in school, right? So you're still in school, and I've heard the stories of you like leaving the classroom to go make calls or going to the bathroom and making calls. What was that? Did you feel like you were doing some sneaky stuff, sneaking around wholesaling deals?
Yeah, I honestly, sophomore year, because that's when COVID happened, or like when COVID like shut down schools. Right. So it was online class, and I could give a shit about school. Like at the time, I was like, online classes suck. Like it really does suck. If you are in an online class right now, it's very hard to pay attention because no one's holding you accountable. You can lay down in your bed and do whatever and then quote unquote attend class. But at the end of the day, it's not optimal. That's not optimal at all to learn if that's your goal. Online classes happened and I was like, I don't want to do this stuff. And then it was like 3 months later, then it like lifted. So I went back to school and then I set up my wholesale business. I hadn't done my first deal until the last day of school for junior year. And that was in Florida, Northport, also a hedge fund deal. And the way I found that hedge fund, I sold it directly to a hedge fund. The acquisition wholesaler would come to me. And I actually skip traced the home I sold in Houston to Dylan. And then I found the hedge fund and then I called a rep at the hedge fund. And I was like, hey, I have a deal in Florida. Are you buying in Florida? And they was like, yeah. And then we sold it to them. Yeah, that's also something we do, or I did. So that was my first deal last day of school. But during school, I was pretty much in and out of class. I was restroom breaks a lot of times, and I would cheat a lot, like a lot. I would pay for someone to give me answers. It was like $10, and to them at the time was a lot of money. And to me, it was like money, but I knew that $10 is nothing if I'm going to save 2 hours of so it's $5 an hour. So I'm like, whatever.
We're like your employees almost, like you were already building a team of people to take stuff off your plate so you could focus on money-making activities.
I was delegating properly. Yeah, pretty much. I just got the answers to them, copied off of them. And then as they're doing that, I'm just doing real estate. I'm just texting people. I'm going on Facebook groups and outreaching and doing all these things. So that was my kind of, and then it gets it gets also once again senior year. Senior year was the craziest year of my high school career, or high school pretty much.
Because of doing wholesale deals, or did other stuff go down?
What happened was, so this was last summer. Was it last summer? I think. Yeah, I'm trying to get my date. Yeah, last summer. So summer of 2000. Yeah, now it's 24. Okay, so summer of 2, I started doing deals, like, because I was full-time real estate pretty much, because it was summer. I had no school, so I had a 90-day sprint to do as many deals as I can. And I did, I think, 4 deals, I think, equal out to 28,000. So not bad.
Yeah.
And end of school is August. So September, I do 40,000. So next month I do 40,000. So my thing was balling. I was posting my wins in the Facebook group, in the community, the Astro flipping community. And one guy reaches out and he's just interested in you doing well in the group. And I want to see how you run your processes. I get on a Google Meet with him. I don't think much of it. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm just going to share all my tactics. And I had no intentions of selling anything. Get on a call and pretty much I show him everything. I'm like, hey, this is how we do our outreach. This is our response rates. This is how I become more efficient. This is how I did 20,000 pretty much. No sell. Didn't even think about, I didn't even know anything about SaaS. I didn't even know it was Go High Level at the time. So he stops me halfway and he's like, how much do you want for this? And I was confused because what he's talking about, I don't know what that means. And pretty much I think you're trying to sell me pretty much. Like, he was thinking I was trying to sell him, which I wasn't. And he's like, I just want this. I want this like yesterday. Pretty much I'm like, okay, sure. $500 maybe. And then he's like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, okay. And then I set it up for him in a day. I think it took me like a couple days actually. And then pretty much from there, I'm like, okay, wow, I just made $500. I didn't think much of it because it was just 500.
Yeah.
Cool. 500. I didn't think I could do it again.
What did you build out for him? Because you were just talking about your process, but then he's like, how much do you want? What was he buying?
It was my outreach process so we got a 60% response rate on my outreach campaigns. So it's like, hey, John, this is Andy. Can you help me? I'm looking for my next house to buy. Can you help me? And I was like, did you get my text? Are you still a realtor? This is John, like this stuff. And then like my follow-up stuff. Hey, just checking in to see if I have any deals. Hey, just touching base, all that stuff. And then, yeah, that's what he pretty much bought, was those templates, those system templates. So that happened. I was like, whatever. I'm just going to do more deals wholesale. Like, I only made $500, whatever. I'm like, yeah, maybe. I started thinking about it one night. I was like, maybe I should probably help more people. So I increased my pricing to $749 one time and a $49 subscription. And I make a post in the Facebook group and I'm like, hey, doing a call, sign up down below. It's literally a Google form of just like name, email, phone number, and that's it. So it wasn't like anything crazy. 120 people sign up for the Google form, 130, I think. So not bad for a Facebook post. Like, pretty good, especially for no ads, nothing, just like 130 signups. Really good. A webinar, it was literally just a call, and I didn't even have a Zoom account. I didn't even know you had to have a Zoom account to host Zooms. I thought you can just create free ones. So I had to borrow my friend's, John Gallan's, and he started off the call, and then first time ever speaking in front of more than 3 people, pretty much. So there was 50 something people on that call. And so I'm just like, hey guys, so I have 50 markets. Here's the stuff. And if you want to buy, you buy. If you don't, so that is just like show my process. And by the end of the day, we did like 28,000. So it's really not bad. I was like, dude, I just made 20,000 a day. I didn't have to deal with a buyer. I didn't have to deal with an agent. I didn't have to deal with a seller. I didn't have to deal with earnest money deposits. I didn't have to deal with any of this stuff. And I just made 28,000 clean. I didn't have to send my wiring information, nothing. So I was pretty stoked. And then after that, a month later, I sold 25 more. So I hovered around 55 people and they were doing deals with it. So Jameel would have these 2 times a week, weekly calls, and people would show up and just be like, hey, share their problems or share their wins or share whatever. And the people who had my system would vocalize to Jameel, hey, you have to check out. I just did a deal with Andy's system. First time he hears it, whatever. Like, Andy's cool. He's a young high schooler.
Right.
Whatever. It's probably like a Google Doc blueprint or something. I don't know what he actually thought, but like when he first probably heard of it, it was probably like he thought nothing of it, which I can understand. And then one testimonial goes by, and then another testimonial goes by, and then another, and then another, and then the kind of the nail in the coffin was his friend Marlon Savage calls him, and he's, if you don't check out Andy's system right now, you're out of your mind. So that's okay, fine. She was like, if you don't fly to Houston right now and shake this kid's hand, you're out of your mind, pretty much. And okay, fine. She's not gonna fly out, but his assistant Emily, I know Emily from like a previous To the Moon podcast, and she schedules a meeting with me. And I'm like, why is Jameel scheduling a meeting with me? It's if Alex Hormozi scheduled a meeting with me randomly. I'm like, why me? I get on, I'm like, what is this? Why are we connecting? Not in a bad way, but this is awesome, but like, why? And then he's pretty much like, dude, like NRE is about to stop this whole thing, and I'm the only one that can stop it if you tell me that the whole thing is actually legit and it's actually doing what you're advertising it to do. So the NRE is like the educational company with Astro Flipping. I don't know if I can actually disclose this, but they were pretty much going to shut me down because I was soliciting. I was like selling something that was not approved by them first. Like I didn't know you had to get approval.
Right.
So they were about to shut me down. They were steps away. They were about to knock on my door. Not literally knock on my door, but they were literally steps away. And so Jameel was the only person who can save me, be like, hey, no, I'm protecting this. Pretty much I show his assistant, and they love it. And he's, let's start a partnership. I'm gonna blow this thing up. Start a partnership, hang up the phone or hang up the meeting. And I start pretty much like dancing, screaming in my room, doing all types of dances in my room. But it was almost unbelievable at the time. I almost had to do like these reality checks. Am I dreaming, or am I like, is this real life? And it was real. And that was definitely the best thing I had for me last year, was becoming a partner with
and that was the beginning of AstroBlaster.
That was the start day of AstroBlaster. Was I think January something January. January for some reason is always a pivotal month for some reason. So he has a mastermind on February 19th, and I'm one of the speakers there. So I talk about, you've been into these masterminds, and I talk about productivity. So I'm doing a presentation on productivity, and I'm like, Jameel, should we sell like AstroBlaster? And yeah, let's try to do it. And then, so it was our first ever premiere, really. So I do the presentation. It was like about productivity, these productivity hacks, about a wholesaler, like how should your schedule look like, what things you should eliminate to become a better wholesaler, more efficient wholesaler. And then at the end, I'm like, actually, all this stuff was bullshit. I lied to you guys. And then I was like, this is actually why I was able to do deals. And I showed him, I was like, what if every 1 minute you put in your business, you can get 5 minutes back in your life? And then what if you can do deals while having a W-2? And then drum roll, AstroBlaster. And we're doing like a 20% off exclusive for mastermind. That's legit. And then I was like, so who's interested? And then everyone raises their hand. Like everyone in the room raises their hand. And I look at Jameel, dude, this is crazy. So next day we had a webinar. Mind you, I'm the only person on the team. So we signed people that day. Only person on the team. No customer support. None of that. There was no team. I didn't even know all the logistics behind everything. I was just sprint, chaos. Let's just go. Controlled chaos. And so next day I fly back to Houston. The webinar is at 5 p.m. I land at 3, I think. So I'm like rushing to the office and getting settled, getting ready. Get there at like 4:45, prepare, ready to go. We have testimonial people on. I do my thing. I show my system. I do my regular thing to show the system. It hands off to one of the testimonials, or Jameel. I pick up my phone and I open Stripe, and we processed $100-something thousand. And I was like, what? My face was still on the webinar, so I had to keep composure. So I was just like, my friend was next to me, and I showed him, and he was just, they couldn't say anything. But in the webinar, I think we stopped at 200,000 at the end of the webinar. And at the end of the day, we did 290. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so. As soon as the webinar ended, everyone was getting login issues because the email domain wasn't warmed properly. And because so many people signed up at one time, the email domain got pretty much marked as spam, and everything went to spam. Yes, they got their account logins, but they didn't check their spam. And then they have like precautions like, hey, check spam. And market list didn't go out. So I had to manually send everyone's new market list. It was a mess. It was absolute mess. No one, like 300 people didn't get a login, and pretty much it was a mess. But we stayed there till like midnight to get it all fixed, and then crashed home. And the next morning back at it. But that was our first launch. And awesome. And so we plan to do another one on February, mid-February.
That's so cool, man. Congratulations on the success. Obviously didn't see it coming,
Yeah.
but you got an amazing partner in Jameel coming on. And if he hadn't had the force to really know that this was something he could be involved with and then partner up with you, you probably would have been, you could have still done it, but you couldn't have done it within his community. Like you would have had to go find your own marketing channels and just do it your own way.
Yeah.
You probably would have had some certain level of success, right? You probably wouldn't have given up just like you did on your first deal. You had that rocket fuel behind you that really helped to propel you to make that $300,000 sales day. That's the power of Jameel, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was a real eye-opening moment of your brand matters a lot. And a lot of people have a ton of followers on like TikTok, whatever, like just followers in general. But they couldn't fill up like a room of people. They tried to. So like Pace's community, like they're savages in a good way. Like they're absolute savages because Pace has given so much and Pace has built this such strong community. You can do anything with them. That's why I want to try to be is have a really large brand like that and a really strong community like that.
Oh yeah. Sales are great when they happen, but can you keep them, right? Because it's a SaaS, right? It's software as a service. So they pay over time likely. There's upfront setup fee and then maybe some recurring revenue that comes from that. But what keeps people around is the community, like-minded individuals, accountability, just being able to be around people that are going through the same stuff that you are. Is that something that you're building too, or is it just a subset of the Astro community?
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group community. It doesn't have, in my personal opinion, there's really no community feel. I don't understand the logistics on how to build an actual community. But that's also like the most important thing is having belief and accountability. This is on another note, is 80% of supplements are due to not actually the ingredients, but due to placebo effect. So belief plays a huge role in someone's success. If someone is going to believe that they actually will lose weight, they'll lose weight. If someone doesn't, they're just not going to lose weight. And I don't want to sound like woo-woo and stuff, but like really it's belief. It's being able to instill belief in someone else that they can actually do it. And that's why people like Pace, they have so much belief that they can go and sub to hundreds of homes because they've done it before. They have all the evidence to. So there's no reason for him not to be able to do that. That's really important. Was something I learned last year was making sure that each person, recently was making sure that each person, because we deal with such a high volume of people now, it's hard. We disconnected from the customer. When I had my 50 people, yeah, that was a huge bandwidth, but I was able to talk to them every day. Now I can't talk to 1,000 people. So we lose that. And even if you hire someone to do it, they're going to be at 80% or 60%. They're not going to be you because you're the founder, you're the creator, everything about the avatar. You can give all these SOPs and do all these things, but they will never be you and they will never perform at the level you probably want them to perform. But that's also something I learned this year. Pretty much biggest things was like team building, team leading, and dealing with customer fulfillment stuff. Customer support was a really big thing, was customer support and making sure that the customer pretty much feels cared for.
Oh yeah. People can get loud when they feel like they're not being cared for. That's the last thing you want is somebody who's got a really loud voice out there talking negatively about your product, because someone hears that and they don't know if it's true or if it's not true. And that can affect a purchasing decision.
Yeah. A bad review will cancel out 10 good reviews. I don't know if that's the exact ratio, but if you have one star and you have five stars, it's that 1 star is going to put a bad taste in whoever's watching its mouth. Even if you have 5 people that love your thing, one guy that just needs everything and puts a 1 star, the one who's like watching to buy, they're going to be like, what if I'm that one guy that happens?
Right.
Like there's a possibility of me failing at this. So
is that part of your goal for this year then, is to really lift the community up and make that a more important part of the whole product offering?
Yeah, pretty much. And also we just released like a new feature and the biggest release since the launch, which was AstroBlaster. And pretty much it streamlines the way to reach out to MLS listings and to make offers for them. Like you'll pull lists from PropWire, Privy, PropStream. For some reason, I always start with P's. But you pull lists from any one of those and you upload them on, you power dialer them. And then if they don't answer, it leaves a text. If they send you a voicemail, it leaves a text. If they answer, information gathering, and then comp it, and then press the button, it submits the offer and follows up with them. That's something that's really huge. So product enhancement, but also mainly this year to focus on customer success is really important.
Yeah.
We know that the metric is if you have at least 500 realtors in your follow-up, depending on the market, you will have a pocket full of coming soon listings, like a pocket listings every day, usually, depending on the market, but usually around 500 people in your follow-up pipeline that are being followed up with. You should get a couple of leads every day.
Yeah.
So we're trying to pretty much, I can guarantee you a deal. If you had 50 a day and make 5 offers a day for the next 90 days, I can guarantee a deal in any market. Would you agree, Benson? If you made 50 agents, if you add 50 agents to your follow-up every day, new agents, and on top of that, you added 5 new offers a day, written offers in 90 days, it's nearly impossible, pretty much impossible.
It would be pretty hard to not succeed with those kinds of metrics. The problem for most people, though, is the consistency. Like they could do that for 2 days and then they're burned out, right?
Yep.
Or life happens, right? They got their 9-to-5 job. They got family responsibilities. They've got the real world gets involved in like their goals and their dreams. And so they don't do the consistent work that needs to be done. And that's just the reality, right? Now you did say, I think this is really important too, is the mindset, right? If they believe they can do it, what's their mindset going in? And that all bleeds into all the activities that they do too, and how they are on the phone. Believing that comes through the phone when you're talking to people, personality, and
100%.
Lots of other skills too they have to learn along the way, right? Because most people aren't good on the phone, so they're stumbling around. They don't understand how to talk with somebody, how to build rapport and trust and get that person on the other end of the phone that want to do business with them. That can take some time to learn. So there's lots of moving parts, but with this system that you've built, like it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it and puts a systematic approach in place so that they can execute that strategy, where most people are just bouncing around. They've got shiny object syndrome and they're trying to do everything. They're not doing anything well, and they're going to burn out of the business.
Think of it as like a stationary bike. You're doing a lot of activity, but you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And
you sweat, you get tired, but you didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. And since the scene is the same, you're going to burn out and you're going to give up. But if you're on a bike, you'll go on for very far. Even you're doing activity, but you're actually going somewhere. So that's a distinct difference, is drawing that line between busy and productive. A lot of people like just don't draw that line and never get out of that kind of vicious hole, better way to put it. But you have to know the differences between non-money making activities and money making activities. And there's only two really the biggest things that matter in this wholesale business: is the conversations you have with your leads and then offers you make. That's very simply, you can get more advanced, but those are the two most important ones.
Yeah.
Arguably the two most important ones.
I would add one more thing to that, and it fits into probably both of those, like proper follow-up.
Yeah.
Having the proper systematic follow-up to where you're not letting any of those leads slip through the cracks. And then that goes to some of those 50 people you're talking to and making sure you're
those would be offers. The 50.
Yeah. The money's in the follow-up. And that's the other thing 100%. That people fail at, is they make one call and they're already on to the next call and they've already forgotten about the one, and they don't log it. They don't track it. They don't put notes about what the conversation was about or record it. And
that's
so
what
it's
sets the good people, the good wholesalers apart, is the good wholesalers, they actually track, because we can't scale. We can't track. If you're not tracking how many offers you're making, how can you truly make a guess on like, hey, this is not working? Okay, because the wholesaler would come to me and be like, I've done this for months and I can't do a deal. And I'm like, show me your KPIs. And then they don't have any. They're like, what is KPIs? And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? And so it's like a reality check. Like, you have to track, whether it's like an app, whether it's your pen, just track and just see if this is the goal and you're right here and you're like, why am I not doing deals? Then maybe it's because there's this discrepancy here. Yeah.
And those are people likely within the community too, right? So they know better. They're just not doing the things they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing about it, is you can give someone the exact blueprint on what they need to do, but most people just aren't going to do it.
This came up, that came up, drift away, put on hold.
Yeah. So what do you do for those people? Do you have any sort of methods that you can take for those people that it's just not getting through to them? Like, they've got AstroBlaster, maybe they're even part of Astro flipping, They've got all the tools they need. They just need to execute. Like, what advice would you give them, or how can you help them?
So we recently implemented customer success managers. So they have a welcome call, and then they have monthly check-ins pretty much. And then you have real estate Q&A calls with me and Ethan. But there's only so much spoon feeding we can do. Sometimes there's lessons that I can't give you. Those lessons you have to experience on your own. I can't slay this dragon for you. You have to get your shield and your sword, and you got to fight him yourself. I can't fight him for you because that doesn't give you the medal. I can give you everything to get you up to that point. Like, I'll give you the running shoes to run faster. I'll give you the shoes that have the carbon fiber plates and make you propel you faster. But if you don't get put on those shoes and run on the track, you're not gonna improve. And I can make it as easy as possible to get to those shoes, but I can't put them on for you. That's really the best way I can put it. Is I can have the best shoes in the world, but if you can't get on them, then I can't tell. Some people thought that if they just pressed checkout, they would get a wire instantly back, get a 10K wire.
Right.
And
not the way it works.
It's fortunately not the way it works. If it was, I'd probably wouldn't sell it. Yeah.
No, it's true. I don't know what the real numbers are either. Some of the numbers that have been floating around the industry for years is that more than 9 out of 10 people will fail in the real estate investing entrepreneur journey because of a myriad of reasons, but mostly because they just don't have it up here. They're not, their mindset is wrong. They've got limiting beliefs. They don't believe they deserve it, or they don't think they can achieve that success. So they self-sabotage, and they go backwards rather than forward.
Vicious cycle. It's a very vicious cycle. And yeah, it's terrible.
But that's where the community comes in. So that's what Pace has been able to do so well with, like, his whole sub-T community. And the Elephant Challenge is like, he elevates leaders in his community to become people who can give a little bit more one-on-one attention. Like, you don't have the ability to scale yourself to that level, but he's done really well at holding people accountable to be part of the community and give back.
Yeah.
And so there's maybe an opportunity there to start finding some people that are doing well with your system. And if they want to give back, having them lead their own groups, little mini subgroups of accountability.
Leaders.
Yeah.
That's why I'm also, we get some, like, the people who actually use it, and then start calls with them. And like, hey, do you want to do like a call with like you get using it? Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Just like Emily did with you way back when I brought you on.
Oh yeah. It was, I think we were calling MLS listings. Yeah. No one picked up. It's a bad day.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen those days. Days. We do wholesale 101 every Wednesday. And so sometimes people pick up, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
Corianne Wright now leads it. Emily is now full-time wholesaling. But Corianne, one day we were on and she got 2 leads, like 3 agents, like it was like a 100% hit rate. And then the very next time we did it, 0 people picked up. So that's one of the realities of the business too, is getting real clear in your own mind about what the expectations are. Like, some days you're going to hit this, it's just, everything's going to click, but most days it's not. Most days it's not going to go the way you planned it to go.
And if it was that easy, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep walking until you reach the end of the hill, or you at least see the light.
So a little while ago, you mentioned, I don't have to write offers. I don't have to talk to agents. I don't have to do this. I don't have to do that in wholesaling, right? Because you made some money doing something else, right? You sold your system. Are you still wholesaling? Are you still in the real estate business yourself, or are you focusing 100% on your SaaS company?
I'm in a season right now where I have to put 100% in, because also really, I can't really, because like you'll have a developer, like you can hire a developer, and you can try to communicate them the things you want, the use cases you want to have, and like all these things. However, they're never going to have the context you have. Even if you get the world-class developer, they won't know the entire context to why is this a use case for this build out? Like, why do we need this? But you would know, like a wholesaler would know. It's because like, oh yeah, that's why. But the developer wouldn't know because their background is not real estate wholesaling. So I understand technology at a pretty deep level. Like, I understand relatively well. And I know real estate relatively well. So that makes me pretty dangerous, because I'm able to think of solutions specifically for my own use cases of real estate wholesale. So what I'm thinking right now is we're doing some internal testing. So like I'll wholesale. So to test new features, I would actually use it in field. If it works for me, then I'm going to be confident talking about it. If it doesn't work for me, why the hell would I give it to anyone else? So I would use it myself. If it glitches out, then that's my fault and we need to fix it. I don't want the user to have to glitch out and then we have to come in and fix it. I want me to take that damage, fix it before it gets released out. So that's how the testing works, is we'll test it internally first, try to throw all the scenarios I know, and then actually try it in field, because in field testing is way different from like in-house. So we'll do in-house testing first, like pretty much all the scenarios I can think of. And then we'll do in field, which would usually be pretty much very different from what actually happens or what we thought would happen. And then once we've refined both parts where it makes sense and is actually efficient, then I'm like, okay, let's start releasing this to beta users and then let's like release this out. So that's our launch, I guess, test strategy right now.
It's smart to do it, to use it in real life situations, which is what I was going to suggest. Maybe you don't get away from wholesaling completely. Like you can justify spending time on that because it's basically like market research, it's R&D, when you're proving the concept, and markets change too. So what worked 6 months ago won't work now. So you may have to develop new strategies to overcome the things that just aren't working anymore. And you can build that stuff in the system.
Yeah. So that's how I'm thinking, is since I'm almost like a coach now, not like a coach, but as if I was like, if you're watching football, I'm like a coach and I'm not like actually playing on the field. And for me to become a better coach, I got to know how it feels when they get hit, or like how it feels to make a touchdown or do all these things. Yeah, definitely. I guess wholesaling pretty much is the next project I'm working on, is a dispose thing. So being able to find buyers easily by outreach and then dispo them. That because it's like a problem solution type of thing. You solve the problem and then another problem comes up. So let's say you get 1,000. Let's say, Benson, you get 10,000 people that sign up for Privy today. Great, but that creates another problem. Solve that problem, now you have another problem. Solve that problem, now you have another. It's like a never-ending loop of, okay, now you have leads in your business. How do you dispo them? Or now that you have so many deals, how do you TC them? How do you run TC on them? And then from there, it's okay, now another problem. We're solving it that way, where our system before still got a lot of leads, but then how do we track them? And then how do we make offers on them? So that's that's the problem that I created. It solved the problem initially, but now it created another problem, which was how do we track? And then I was like, okay, let's do this. And then another problem. Not a bad way, but it's just how it works. Problem solution, and never ending cycle.
It
You
is.
never reach an end point. There will never be an end. There will never be a finish
No,
line.
not necessarily until you sell. You can always replace yourself with other people who can take the brunt of the difficult work that has to be done every day. And you could elevate yourself to the boardroom where you just stop in from time to make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And being 18, I mean, that's maybe just a couple of years away. I don't know where this is going to take you, but you probably have some good financial goals and some other goals of doing things. But you're right. Like you're in this season right now of really just focusing on making this a successful, growing company. And I want to congratulate you on that and all your success up to this point. I know you're growing your brand. So if anybody here wants to follow you, Andy, where can they find you?
Instagram. I'm really like, my Instagram handle is official Andy Rong without the W, but I'm really trying to go bigger on YouTube. I feel like it's a better long-term type of play.
Okay.
So I just like
same thing, official Andy Rong.
I think it's official Andy Rong. Let me check.
I think it is. I'm looking at it. Yeah, official Andy Rong. So you guys, you can search YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You're on all those platforms. Follow Andy. Follow his journey. Obviously, we heard some of his backstory, so it's hard not to root for a guy like Andy who's out there doing some really cool things. So make sure you follow him and just keep a tab on what he's working on. But Andy, thank you so much, man, for taking the time. It was really cool to get to know you a little bit better and learn more of the backstory. And hopefully we talked about some things you haven't said 100 different times on other podcasts. But thanks for coming on.
I loved it. Yeah, that's great.
Awesome. Really appreciate you. And for all of you that are listening right now, appreciate you listening to this episode. Like this video, follow my channel so that you can get notifications on upcoming podcasts. We're going to be having lots of different guests from different backgrounds, real estate investing, entrepreneurship, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for being here.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, Keep hacking the real estate world.